Hi, this is CK at CK Education, and today I want to talk about SAT prep and score increases. SAT prep is not the same as a score increase. SAT prep doesn't always, in fact, I would say, unfortunately, in most cases, most students doing most SAT prep programs do not see significant score increases. This is 12th year, 12th or 13th year, going into my 12th or 13th year of doing this. As I said in a previous video, I've had hundreds of students who have done all kinds of SAT prep programs, every kind imaginable, without seeing results. And then they come to me, I heard you can increase SAT scores, so can you do it? And sometimes they come to me way too late. It's too late in the game. It's their senior year. They have 1 month before the test. I've had to turn down already this year. I've had to turn down several students because I just couldn't take them off. First of all, I didn't have any spots on my schedule. They wanted to start like today or this week, and I said, well, it was like October. And I said, you have to wait until March. I don't have any openings until March or May, something like that, which it'd be too late for them. So there are sometimes students just run out of time, but it's very, very sad whenever I have to turn a student down for that reason, because I know how hard they worked in previous SAT prep programs. These are not kids who just sat around. These are kids who studied a lot, who went to a lot of different places, or they spent a lot of time in one place and they were there for a year or a year and a half. They did all kinds of hours and took all kinds of practice tests. And yet when they take the real test, they don't get the score that they want. In fact, they don't see a big increase at all. And this is the worst part about it, is they don't understand what's wrong. They said, I don't know what more I have to do. I had this one student last year. She said, I took 34 practice tests. 34 practice tests. So a kid like that comes to me and says, I don't know what else I need to do. I said, well, you've been doing all the wrong things. Unfortunately, I had to tell her, because it's not taking a bunch of practice tests that will raise your score. If that were the case, it's pretty easy. Just go get all the books. Get a College Board book, a Kaplan book, a McGraw-Hill book, a Barron's book, a Princeton Review book, and just go through all the tests in there and just read up on the explanations. Go to Khan Academy, do all the problems and do that. And then you should get a great score. But it doesn't happen, because after many, many, many hours of study, after taking numerous tests, and after spending months and months and months, quote, prepping, they didn't really get prepped on anything. They just did a lot of things, but it didn't lead to any results. This is what I call activity without achievement. Do not mistake just doing things for it's going to give me the results that I want. That is not the case. And unfortunately, that is not the case in the vast majority of SAT prep programs. This is a sad thing in my industry. I think this was back in 2000, and I'm trying to remember exactly the year. I think it was Wall Street Journal that did an article. I think it was in 2009, and they wrote an article about this. And they looked at some of the well-known SAT prep programs back then, and I won't mention names. In fact, I forgot what the names were exactly, but they were big name companies. They were not tutoring centers here and there, but well-known companies. And they found out that the average score increase was significantly lower than advertised. It was, in some cases, there was no score increase at all. And in my experience, teaching almost 1,000 students for over 20,000 hours since 2009, I can tell you that that is absolutely true. I just don't understand how these centers and these programs, they do all these things, and parents and students fall for it. You know, like if someone says, look, here's what we do. We cover all the sections of the SAT, and we use only the official study guide for the SAT, which is College Board. We use their book, and we have people who've been doing this for years. And we have someone who's an English literature major, and that teacher is going to teach the reading and the writing section, and then we have someone here who's a math teacher at a public school, and that person's going to do the math section, and on and on. This seems pretty impressive. You're like, wow, this seems pretty good, you know? And so we're going to enroll them in this program, and it's just so that we don't waste your time, we have a summer intensive program. They need to come 3 to 4 hours a day, but it's only for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then they're done, they can go take the test. So a parent hears this, or a student hears this, they go, wow, that's so efficient. I mean, just you got to suffer for about 3 or 4 weeks in the summer, and then you can go take the test. What is a parent or the student expecting? Huge score increases. So they go through all of these things by these, quote, qualified teachers, and then they go in, and then they take the test, and then they get very, very disappointing results, if anything. So what happened? Well, unfortunately, this is a story of too many parents and too many students. The reason it doesn't work is like I said in a previous video, nobody is teaching the student how to change their mind. They're still taking the test and analyzing the test in mode A thinking, which is the way they normally think. You can't think mode A thinking and get different results on that test. The SAT is a completely different game. You have to think mode B, not mode A. You got to go from mode A to mode B, and changing that takes time. It does take time. I often tell my students and parents who come to me, I say, look, the average time a student spends with me is about a year. They say, a year? I said, yeah, about a year. But remember, we only meet once a week for an hour and a half, and we only meet 4 times a month. So we're basically meeting, the student sees me only 6 hours a month. 6 hours a month, okay? So yes, it usually takes about a year. Now, some students get finished with me in 3 months, and some students take even longer than a year. But I'm just saying on average about 10 to 12 months, okay? And I tell people up front, there's no secret, and if that's too long, then shouldn't even start, okay? But if you want results, it's going to take about that long. And just doing it that long, again, I'm no different. Just doing it that long is not going to produce results. And I always tell parents and students, and I'm telling you right now, if you're a parent or if you're a student watching this, that just going through the program is not going to do it. There's always 2 parts. If you want results, if you want an improvement in score, okay, an improvement in anything really, there's always 2 things. First, you have to learn the right method. You have to be taught the right methods, and you have to learn the right method. They're different things. I can teach somebody something, but they may not learn it. So that then it won't matter. So the right method has to be taught and learned. And in order for the student to learn, they have to practice and repeat that until they get to a level of mastery. Okay, those are the 2 things. You have to be taught and learn the right methods, and then you have to practice until mastery. So I always tell students, my job is to teach you the right things. Your job is to master them and learn them. If those 2 things happen in 10 to 12 months, you get great results, okay? Even when other programs did not work. So this is the big difference between what I do and these, quote, SAT prep programs. Just because it's called an SAT prep program doesn't mean it increases scores. It's just like someone saying, look, I'm trying to lose weight. If your goal is to lose pounds, okay? If your goal is to lose pounds, and you say, so, hey, how's it going? After a week, you say, well, I don't know, but I've been a little bit more active. Okay, cool. After a month goes by, so what have you been doing? But I've been pretty active. Okay, good. 6 months go by. What have you been doing? Well, I've been a little bit more active. I've been walking and stuff. Okay, so did you lose any pounds? I don't know. So you weigh yourself. No, I weigh even more. Or I've lost no pounds at all. What have you been doing for the last 6 months? What have you been doing for the last year? Well, I've been moving around. Okay, but maybe you've been working on the wrong things. Maybe you've been working on things that have no impact on the results that you want. Whenever you want results in something, you have to make sure you're doing the right things to get those results. This is the big disconnect between causation and correlation. Okay, causation is knowing what are the things that have a direct impact on the result that I want? That is causation. If I do this, this will happen. If I do this, this will, okay, that's causation. Correlation is like, well, I know someone who went to Harvard. Okay, I had a student come to me one time. She says, I want to go to Princeton. I said, okay, what's your GPA? Like 3.4. I said 3.4. Okay, what was your SAT score? And this was back then out of like 2,400. She's like 1,800. I said, oh, okay, but do you know what the average is for Princeton? I mean, what other things have you done? Well, I've done a little bit of activity here and there. Okay. And I had to tell this girl that, I'm sorry, but that's not going to be possible. Okay. Even if you had a 4.0 GPA and you had a near perfect SAT score, it's not a slam dunk. And then she says, yeah, but I have a friend who had in a similar situation, and he got in, okay? And I later learned that he was an underrepresented minority. Now, if you don't know what that means, this is not necessarily to do with ethnic background. You can search in one of my videos about what I mean by underrepresented minority. And it doesn't always have to do with ethnicity. But he was a major underrepresented minority. Those are exceptions. Those kinds of students are exceptions. I said, you're not an underrepresented minority. In fact, you're an overrepresented minority, okay? So that doesn't pertain to you. Just because your friend got in from your school doesn't mean you will. But in her head, that was a correlation, because my friend from my school got in with similar GPA and SAT. I also can get in. She didn't understand what the cause was for that friend going in. It had nothing to do with her. But she just correlated it. She just well, he goes to my school, he has similar SAT, similar GPA, so he got in, so maybe I can get in. That's correlation. That is faulty. That does not work, okay? A lot of people do this with SAT. Oh, they said it's an SAT prep program. They use the official study guide of the SAT. They have, quote, qualified teachers. I mean, if you're teaching the math section, wouldn't a public school math teacher be the best person to teach that? I mean, it makes sense. It logically makes sense. And if someone has a PhD in English literature, wouldn't that be the best person to teach the reading and the grammar section of the SAT? I mean, logically, we think things like that and think, well, yeah, that correlation seems to make sense. But the causation there is not there. The causation isn't there. Okay? Who says that public school math teachers know how to teach SAT math? Who says that school math and SAT math are the same? So there's a lot of underlying assumptions and premises that people don't understand. And this is why they don't know the difference between what causes a score to go up and what is a correlation. Okay, sometimes a correlation is nothing. But they don't understand the causation. And the problem is a lot of teachers and SAT prep instructors, tutors, do not understand the causation either. They're under the same spell. They're under the same faulty assumption that if they just study from this book or explain problems until their face turns blue, okay, then their scores will go up. It will not. It does not. And so this is very important. I just want to explain to you today very clearly that just because somebody says, or some program says, or some organization says they do SAT prep, that doesn't necessarily mean that your kids or if you're a student, your score will go up. You got to make sure that they have a record of raising scores based on the things that cause scores to rise. And that is the important thing, okay? In a subsequent video, I'm going to be talking about the 80-20 rule for SAT prep and a little bit more specifically about what are those causes? What are the causes that make SAT scores go up? And I'll be covering that in maybe my next video here. But for now, I just want to leave it at this. And so I hope that's helpful. And if you are interested in becoming one of my students, the best thing is go to my website, ckeducation.org. Fill out the SAT prep application form. And in the comment section, please write in there why you think you would be a good fit or why your child may be a good fit as one of my students. Again, every year I have to turn down students. I cannot take every student who wants to become one of my students because my schedule just doesn't allow it. But I would like to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you, and hear about your situation, your circumstances, and I will always take them into account. So do that if you like. But thanks so much for watching this video. And until my next video, please stay well.